You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the Iron Lady season that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you and helps make you better. We're the improvement family, if you were. Is this a show? I don't know. The improvement show? The home improvement show? That was a TV show. Hey, guys, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Guilt and shame them until they subscribe. No, don't do that. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places you can find on the internet where people do all the things there. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind.
You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
He's the author of the book that came out August 28th, 2024. Gary Elliott joins us on the show. His book is entitled, You Can Get Through This with God's Help. And hopefully he's got a 1-800 line or maybe an email I can use for that. But we're going to get into it. We're going to find out the deets, as the kids like to say, of all the stuff there so that we can find out more. He has an amazing story. Gary was born and raised in San Diego, California, graduated from Mission Bay High School, and went to Mesa Junior College. Spent 20 years in the U.S. Air Force, stationed in Massachusetts, Southern California, Germany, Texas, England, Northern California, and after plus 5 months in Okinawa. He received his BS from Chapman University in Computer Information Services, and after the Air Force, worked for 19 years at Lockheed Martin as a satellite systems engineer. We like satellites because that's probably what runs this show, actually. He spent 2 years at the Western Seminary. He's been a Christian since 1970. In the same year, he started teaching the Bible. He has been involved in Christian ministry for almost 55 years. He's married to Judy, his second wife, for 32 years, and has 3 children from a previous marriage. And Judy has 2 boys from previous marriage. Loved to play tennis and go to the gym. Boy, we know everything about him right now. I think we can just wrap the show. Gary, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, thank you very much. That's great to be here.
I think I just did in your bio, You Are Here, a Life Story. You know how they used to do those shows on the TV? This Is Your Life. Was that what it was called? This Is Your Life?
Yeah.
So, Gary, give us any .coms, any places you want people to check you out on the internets to get to know you better.
I'm on author Gary Elliott, 2 L's, 2 T's, authorgaryelliott.com.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your new book?
Oh, gosh. It really covers over 30 years. It started, I went through a separation and divorce. It started in 1990. Mm-hmm. And, I went through about over a year of counseling, which I really needed. I didn't know how dysfunctional I was. Mm. So in 91, I was working at Lockheed at that time, and I went to the bathroom. I was just sitting there minding my own business, and all of a sudden, God just gave me my first poem. I wasn't sitting there saying, God, I could use something spiritual from you. It just came. And I thought, holy smoke. So when I finished, I went back to my cubicle and I wrote down this poem. And then after that, the poems just started to come. It's like it was amazing. And then I would share them at work, and some people would say, you should write a book. So it was kind of in the back of my head for a long time, and I'd write some more poems along when things came along, good and bad, difficult times, death in my family. My mom passed away and stuff like that. And then later on, when first I had prostate cancer, which a lot of older men have.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting it, really, so it was not a big, huge deal. But then later on, when I, my wife ended up having to have open heart surgery. We both had cancer at the same time, and that was, now we're kind of up to date in the 2020 time frame. And so then when I finished my last set of chemo and stuff, I had kind of a nothing to do, and I thought, well, what should I do? And then the Lord just said, write the book.
Write the book. So did you find it was, one of the things about divorce is divorce can be a time, it's a change over identity. It's a death of identity. It's a death of vision. It's a death of, because a lot of people, when they get married, they kind of have this concept of, well, I've got that, it's like that line in Fight Club. Well, I've got that one thing taken care of for the rest of my life. So, I can focus on other things. And so there's kind of identity around marriage. So we're a married couple. You're kind of two people in that identity. And then in divorce, you lose that identity and you have to kind of rebuild your own identity again, as a single person or, whatever's next. And so did you find it was, maybe in that cathartic moment of going through that experience and, rediscovering yourself, did you find that the poems kind of helped you kind of work through that process? There's kind of a healing sort of thing here, maybe.
Yes. I really feel like I got married too young. I was young and dumb. I was 19, and as far as my maturity level, I don't think at the time I was really mature.
Well, you know what they say, youth is wasted on the young. I say that a lot the older I get.
Yeah.
But I was subject to the same sort of dumbness. I think I still am. I look at stuff I did 10 years ago. I'm like, what an idiot I was.
Oh yeah, I know. But as in a real marriage, like my second marriage, we were best friends first. And then we grew together. Whereas the first marriage, we were never really friends. And instead of growing closer together, we ended up over the years, because we were married for, I think, 21 years, growing further and further apart. And we looked good on the surface, but under the surface, we had a lot of issues. And so during that divorce time frame, like I said, I was really glad that I was going through counseling. Because I was so dysfunctional, a lot of issues with anger, a lot of issues with abandonment and other things that just really needed to get worked out and make myself healthy, because I feel like I emotionally was unhealthy.
Would you recommend that a lot of people going through divorce maybe go get counseling at the same time? Maybe that's something they should, come to think of it, because, I run a big singles group and talk about dating a lot. I can tell you there's a lot of people I see that, and I've had friends in divorce, and I've actually gone and had to testify at their family hearings, and I've seen the craziness of the cost of divorce and attorney fees and, the stupid shit they fight over sometimes in divorce court that just makes the fees worse when really they would achieve the same thing. You think that maybe more people should do that or consider doing that if they ever end up in that divorce situation, end up, invest in some counseling?
I do. Because so when I was in seminary for the 2 years I was there, I was, my goal at the time was to get a Master of Divinity degree. And you had a choice. You could either have a emphasis in biblical studies or emphasis in counseling. And I've been doing so much counseling over the years that I picked the counseling. And one of the first things I learned is my professor in charge of the counseling side, he actually wanted me to switch over to get the degree instead of biblical studies into counseling. But he was saying 99 to 100% of everybody is dysfunctional in some degree or another. And so when you've been married for 1 year, 10, 15, 20 or more, you're dysfunctional. You need to get healthy, mentally healthy. Or if you jump right into another marriage right after that, you're bringing the same baggage with you. Yeah. And you need to get yourself healthy before you go into another marriage.
Yeah, you know, I see a lot of people that do that. They go hop right into another marriage. They can't handle being alone, and being able to be alone and with yourself and you know your identity is really important, because you have to be whole as a person. You have to be what I call clean. Die clean, white men from town. That Stephen King movie. But you have to be clean. So you're right. You've got to clean up your act. You got to clean up your psychology. You got to really identify and reestablish who you are as a person. Otherwise, you're just dragging that married identity into the other thing. And, you know, you're marrying somebody probably fairly different. You know, so you've got to reestablish that. And, you know, most people in dating, you know, when you date people, you're like, are you clean of your past relationship? Are you, have you put that away, packed that away, close that up, and, you know, wrapped a bow on that and said, okay, put that in storage. And a lot of people don't. They're still dragging all that stuff around. And I see a lot of people do that. They hop right into another marriage, and then it fails fairly quickly because they haven't done that. They haven't cleaned the attic, if you will.
Right.
And you know, I mean, I have a rule, and I think a lot of people do that are in the dating market. I mean, this rule is, I think I came up with it in the 90s, and I think I took it from somebody else. But basically, you don't date people who've been divorced if you're serious about a relationship with them. You know, you can go have some fun, I guess. But if you're serious about a relationship with them, you gotta wait 2 or 3 years. It takes time to go through the grieving process, the stages of grief. You've got to unpack everything, you know, and there's a lot of time people spend thinking about that relationship, and that's part of the extricating from it mentally. But, you know, that takes time. You just can't go over it overnight. It is the death of something. It's like processing a death of a loved one. You know, it's the death of an identity. And so you started writing poems, and that was probably really helpful to, you know, some people do journaling, some people do different things, really helpful to kind of maybe, you know, and I think this is some good advice for other people that are in some of these cathartic moments, to sit down and start writing and processing how you're thinking and feeling, so that you're just not bagging it all up inside, right, where you want to explode.
I mean, going through the counseling, I felt like, you know, you go through dark times. Yeah. And you feel like you have a number of feelings that are going on. Yeah. You're angry. You go through angry. I was angry with God. I thought, oh, really? I've been a Christian for 20 years, and my first thoughts were, look what you've done for me, God. Wow. And there was one time I'm driving down the road, and I got so angry at God. I'm yelling and screaming and pounding on the steering wheel and saying, God, look what you've done, blah, 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 blah. And then it didn't take long before I thought, oh, I'm sorry, Lord. But you know what? God can take anything you give him. You want to yell and scream at him because you need to? That's okay. He can handle it. He can handle anything. If you want to, I spent a lot of time crying too. Cried like a baby for the first year just because of all the emotions I was going through. And you will go through those kind of emotions, you know, and you feel like, man, I'm in this dark spot. Am I ever going to get out? But as time goes on, as you get healthier and healthier, you start to see, I think I see a little bit of light at the end of that tunnel. Yeah. It's like one of my poems, you know, you're seeing the light coming out of the forest. Oh, man, you know, I was wondering when it was ever going to stop raining and pouring and hailing. When am I going to see a little bit of sunshine? But after a while, you see it start to come, and you just feel differently. It's amazing what God did in my life.
We were talking about this on a couple of shows, I think last week, and you've got to just trust the process. I think, one of those instruction manuals that they should give us when we start life is, hey, you're going to go through some dark times. You're going to go through some troughs. You're going to go through some tough times. You're going to go through some deep ravines of life, and you're going to survive if you just keep going. So just hang in there. I think I used to hate when people would tell me, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So I'm like, damn it, I want the perfect destination. I want the perfect flight, and I want to make the fewest mistakes, and I want everything to be perfect.
Right.
And so a lot of people fall in that mentality, and then when they get challenges thrown at them, they're like, what is this? And you're like, hey man, you should have expected this. And I think after you live long enough, I just nowadays, if something, we go through something bad, I just go, well, okay, so this is something we need to realize that we can grow from, and that we can do things with, and it's fine. We're going to be fine. We just have to get through this. We have to keep going, just keep going through the tunnel, keep taking one step forward, doing things like therapy, like you did, journaling, poem writing. Some people write books that help them, and a lot of times that writing that stuff down gives us that self-reflection, that self-awareness that we need to help get through these moments. And, I think one of the most important things I realized is everyone goes through these dark times in life, these valleys of life, and you just got to get through it. You can't give up. You just got to keep moving, put one foot in front of the other, eat the elephant one bite at a time, and that's really what's helped me. I don't know what your thoughts are on that process. Feel free to throw in here.
No, you're absolutely right. You hear it all the time, one step at a time, one day at a time. You think, okay, yeah, sure, but it's really true. Like I said, you go through so many emotions, and some days it'll be terrible. Your mind just kind of thinks. It's amazing how quickly our minds go to the negative, and you just can't. I can't say you can't do that, because we will. But you can't stay there.
Exactly.
And for me, that's the importance of prayer, of staying close to God, because, a lot of people in the Bible that went through some really tough times and horrible times, but they kept their focus on God, and you get through that emotional mess that you're going through, whether it be a death or a move, cancer, medical issues. It's you just take it like we say, one day at a time, one step at a time, and you will get through it. You're not alone.
You're not alone, and that's you bring up another good point, the not alone point, and that's one of the things people sometimes do is when they don't reach out for therapy, when they don't talk to other people, and they don't maybe self-reflect by writing. The most important thing we can learn in life is that this is why we do the show. We have people on like yourself who have gone through cathartic moments. They have a blueprint of how they survive those moments, and so they can help other people. And that's the most important thing to do, is because people sometimes will isolate themselves, and that's how suicide happens and other things, where they go, I'm the this is me, life, or maybe sometimes a god or something else is after them or trying to destroy them, and they just feel isolated, and they just paint themselves into a corner of madness. And when really, we need to reach out, talk to other people, listen to the Chris Voss show so you can find cathartic blueprints. Maybe I should rename the show Cathartic Blueprints, the cathartic time blueprints. But, realizing we're not alone, and there's other people in the world who can help us through things. I've told stories over the show over the years. People are probably sick of hearing them, where things happen to me, and I was like, I don't want to share this. It's kind of personal and selfish, and booze me, cry, whatever. Chris has got crybaby day. But there were losses. But It turns out me talking about some of the things I talk about have helped so many other people and help, that realization. Hey, I'm not alone. There's other people who've had this problem. There's other people who've survived it. There are tools out there that we can utilize. Tell us about your upbringing. How did you grow up? How did that, and maybe how much of that shaped you did you find in counseling? Give us a lowdown of history on you.
It's funny, because I've been a Christian for so long now, a lot of people assume that I was raised in a Christian family and went to church all the time, blah, 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 blah. And it's not the case. I was basically raised by my mother.
Mm-hmm.
My real dad, like a lot of guys back in those days that went through World War II, they were also alcoholics. My dad was an alcoholic. So was my mom, really, and my stepdad. But I never went to church. In fact, my mom was actually a card-carrying member of the AAAA, which is the American Association for the Advancement of Atheism.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So, but she was a loving mother. She didn't badmouth God and the Bible too much. Every once in a while, she might say something, but it wasn't. But my stepdad, he was in the Navy, and I remember my mom telling him, because he said, I want to stay 20 years in the Navy. She said, fine. But Gary and I aren't going to leave San Diego, so you do whatever you want. So because of that, he had to volunteer for sea duty a lot. So I didn't see him. And when he was around, he was so introverted that he didn't really spend much time with me. But the main thing I really wanted to bring out, though, was even though my mom and real dad got divorced when I was only like 5, he always lived close by to us in San Diego, and I saw him quite a bit.
Your dad?
And once he remarried, he really settled down as far as his drinking and everything.
Huh.
What I learned from him, and that stood out a lot, was that he loved everybody.
Wow.
It didn't matter whether you were white, black, red, green, purple, male, female. He would go out of his way. I saw him take his shirt off and give it to somebody because he said, you need it more than I do.
Wow.
Somebody would come and say, I could really use a truck. Take my truck. Take it for as long as you need it. I'll just, stay by the house, and when you're done, bring it back. He went out of his way to just love people, and that's the way I grew up, and that's the way I was. Even in high school, I loved everybody. Everybody was a friend. I tried to be nice to everybody. I go out of my way to help people. Whatever I can do, I'm there. So I learned that from my dad, and my mom was also very loving. I never got spanked. That doesn't mean I was perfect by any means. She just didn't believe in spanking, but she was very loving, and my dad was very loving, and that's how I grew up, which helped me to be the way I am.
So when did you kind of get involved in religion?
Again, it's funny because not while I was in San Diego, it really wasn't until my first duty station in Massachusetts that we started going to a church. I think it was a Baptist church, and people were really nice to us. And I thought, well, that's really nice, because I was an airman nobody, making no money at the time, way back then, in the late 60s. They would bring us food because we really needed it. My first son was born in 1970. So, they would bring us food and stuff. And I thought, well, that's really nice. And then I would hear a little bit about the Bible and things. And I always felt like, even though my mom, like I said, wasn't a believer, for some reason, when I was a kid, I always had this prayer. I would go to sleep at night and I would say the same prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I have no idea who taught me that. It wasn't my mom, that's for sure.
Card carrying.
So, but God was always in the back of my head. And so when I went to Okinawa, some guys came, knocked on my door, and shared the gospel with me about everybody being a sinner, and how we need to come to Christ, how he is the only way to get to God. And so it all made sense to me. And so I accepted the Lord back then in 1970. And then when I went back to Massachusetts, the pastor came to me and he said, "You should, I want you to teach a high school class." And I said, "No." My first response was no. But God had another plan, because he wanted me, because I said I'd only been a Christian for 6 months. He said, "Well, I feel like you could relate to them better than I could." So that's how I got started.
Wow. Sometimes the teacher is the best student, or the person who learns the most.
Yeah.
I kind of do that on the show. I might learn more than any other in my audience, because I get to sit firsthand and ask the questions, and I have to be focused on the answers. Sometimes if you're out there listening to the audience, you can get distracted. Don't do that, folks. I want you to just stare at the podcast screen or whatever you consume on your phone, and I want you just to focus till you get that vein that forms in your forehead that sticks out. No, I don't do that, folks. That might be bad. That sounds bad. It doesn't sound. It sounds like the lawyer should give me some advice on that one. Don't tell that to people, Chris. Anyway, no, it sounds like one of the things that happens is, one of the things that happens with children who grow up in I don't know if you call your parents alcoholics, but sometimes with a lot of drinking going on, is there's sometimes a bit of instability that they have in the home. And so one of the things people seek in those times from that sort of trauma is they seek stability. They look for something that can give them, a log or rock they can hold from in life. Do you think that some of that impacted your childhood with, the dissolving of your parents' union very early on, and that kind of creates its own instability of itself?
You're correct. It wasn't the alcohol as much, because when you're a kid in your teen, that's the thing to do. Drink.
Yeah, I mean, in that era, that everybody drank in that era.
And my parents and most of those parents way back then, they're smoking 1, 2, 3 cartons.
Packs, cartons.
Smoking cartons, packs a day.
Yeah,
because it was cheap, especially if you're in the military. I think it only cost them like a couple bucks to get a carton of cigarettes. That was more impactful for me than the alcohol. And the reason being because I was 17 years old when my mother got throat cancer. And I was with her when she went to the doctor, and he said, "The cancer you have is strictly from smoking."
Really? Wow.
So I thought, And so, but still I tried it. And like the first puff or two, it's like I'm coughing. Why in the world people like this stuff? This is terrible. So I didn't smoke. Drinking, I definitely didn't want to get to the point where, because my dad, like I said, he was an ugly alcoholic. I saw him fighting the police when they would come to arrest him. He would fighting them. Yeah. I thought, boy, I never wanted to get to that point. So, yeah,
that's a bit of instability right there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Seeing that and everything else. I mean, you're wondering what's going on. Why is this going on? And as a child, sometimes we have a hard time processing this data, and we just store it as trauma. Sometimes we put it away and our mind goes, okay, we're just going to share this try and resolve this at another time when maybe we feel like this person's developed. And it's kind of interesting. A lot of people pack trauma away. And so it was good that you went to therapy, because maybe some of these things that you went through when you grew up impacted you in your relationships, your romantic relationships. Maybe it affected your marriage, your marriages. And, it was good that you went through some counseling so that you could maybe see, maybe is there anything I need to resolve here, maybe to understand what's going on in my life and make yourself a better person. I think that's maybe the journey we all need to be on.
And the counseling I went through was through the senior pastor at the church we're going through. So that was also quite helpful, having counseling with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, anytime we self-reflect, and I think that's something that's really lost in this era that we're in. We're kind of in this narcissistic era where, and I'm guilty of this too, where we spend all our time online bragging about who we are and what we're doing, and kind of everything's a brand build. Everybody's got a brand build now. And there's a certain aspect of sharing that, like we talked about, helps other people. I like to share my ideas. I kind of use Facebook as a journal a bit, but because it's actually kind of nice. It reminds me a lot of things over the years. Like recently, it reminded me of my dog's passing and stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should really remember and think about that. You live a long life and you lose a lot of things over time because you're focused on things, and you're like, hey, I forgot about that. But being self-reflective, spending time with ourselves in quietness to ponder things, or kind of think about ourselves, like, why do I do what I do in life? But it's interesting, we've talked about this a lot on the show, and it's really an important lesson for people, is that a lot of what happens to us in our childhood, trauma and different experiences we have, they shape us. They shape our marriages, our relationships, how we interact with people. And, there's a lot of stuff maybe that we need to unpack there, fix, and then finally put away in storage, because we're like, hey, all right, we got all that done. It sounds like you've been through that journey a few times. And would you say that's helped improve your relationships, your second marriage, et cetera, et cetera?
Oh, for sure. After the divorce, I said, well, I'm never going to get married again.
A lot of people say that. That's interesting.
The first one was disastrous. I can't take another one like it. But then after about a year and a half or so, I thought, well, if I should get married, this is what I'm looking for. And so I wrote down some things. For me, the first thing I put on there is I need a godly woman, somebody who puts God first. Second, I need somebody who respects me, because I didn't get that with the first one. She has to be respectful to me, and we our communication needs to be there. And so I said, last thing on the list really was, I didn't care if she was pretty or not. I was more important about her inside than I was her outside. But God gave me both. She is just absolutely beautiful inside and out. Yeah. So I was blessed with that. I'm so thankful. And we've been through so many things together with our cancers and other things that we've had, her open heart surgery. God has really blessed us in that area.
So tell us about the open heart surgery. This sounds like, and cancer, this sounds like another journey a lot of people end up going on, a lot of people end up dealing with, because they're this is kind of something a lot of people are going through in life nowadays. And, this is one of those other hurdles that we get thrown that, we can help each other through by giving each other support.
That's for sure. Yeah, I'm just so thankful. Not only for Judy, but I had a lot of other friends. So we're living in Surprise, Arizona at the time when she had her open heart surgery and the major cancers. But I still had a lot of friends and relatives back in San Jose, and I could actually feel people's prayers. I've also got some other really good friends overseas. I could feel those prayers coming in for me and for Judy. It's just amazing. You have that feeling, knowing all these, like we said before, you are not alone. You got people praying for you. People are calling you, texting you, emailing you, making sure that you're doing okay. What can I do to help you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's so important for us to reach out and talk about our problems. We were talking, I think, last week with somebody on the topic of suicide who I believe had a son who'd committed suicide. And, a lot of times, not talking to someone else, not reaching out. If you feel that you're in trouble, you can call 988, which will put you in touch with people who can help. And, sometimes just talking to other people about your issues and opening up. And sometimes we feel, shame seems to be something that kind of holds us back, where we don't want to talk to a therapist or talk to somebody else, because we're like, well, I don't want people to know anything, all that good stuff. And, it's talking to people helps open the door to, improving yourself, improving your life, and becoming a better person. You almost need to do that. So, yeah.
I can understand, because there was one time I remember specifically, it was early on in my counseling and stuff. I was in a group. There was a large, had at least 60 people, 60, 80 people in this room. And I'm there, and actually it had to do with talking about counseling and stuff. And I thought, I'm here with all these people, surrounded by all these people, and I feel so lonely. I thought, why am I, all these people, shouldn't somebody care about me? You feel like no one cares. You feel like even in a crowd, you're still alone, but you're not. And like we've been saying, talk to somebody, speak up, talk, people are there to want to help you. So, yeah.
Yeah, and people want to help stuff. So what do you hope people come away with when they read your book?
Thank you for asking me that, because, at first when I wrote the book, I thought, oh, it's just some really nice poems, but really it's my life. It's more of a story of me going through those 30-some years and everything that I went through. It's more than just poems. And I thought, when I finish this, my goal was not only to glorify God, but I want to be able to help people. Just like I talked about my dad, how loving he was to everybody. I want to help people, because there's a whole bunch of people out there that are going through or gone through or will go through a divorce, a separation. People are going to go through some medical issues, whether it be cancer or heart issues or something. They're going to be able to read this book of mine, because everybody I've talked to have read this book, both of them.
Yeah.
They've said, I love this book. Some people said, the poem's are really nice, but I love your story. Some people love the story. One person said, I love the cover of your book because of the colors. The colors of my book are burgundy and pink. Burgundy stands for multiple myeloma, which is a cancer I have, and pink is for the breast cancer, which is what my wife had. So I want people to be able to relate to me, to be able to help them, to say, oh, I'm so glad I read this. It really helped me to get through what I'm going through.
What an uplifting message. And so you've helped this in your own journey through cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things where, like I said, helping each other, listening to the show, we bring so many people on that have gone through so many different things, and it's interesting to hear their stories, their journeys, the choices they make. And, sometimes they talk about the mistakes they make, or, sometimes we're just kind of fumbling through life because, they didn't give us an owner's manual last time I checked. Yeah. I didn't get one in the mail. I'm still waiting for mine to come in the mail. So as we go out, any final words, maybe a word or two that you can say to people to help them out, encourage them to read the book. Are there any offers on your website, any coaching, any consulting or anything like that, et cetera, et cetera? Give us a final pitch out in your .com as we go out.
Well, here's what it looks like. And, I just want to emphasize the fact, again, that you're not alone. I mentioned, it says you can get through this with God's help, and that's definitely true. I could not get through a lot of stuff without God's help. Again, the website also talks about this book and everything is author Gary Elliott, 2Ls2Ts.com. I'm on Amazon, the book. Get help, folks. If you need help, get help. One thing, I hope this doesn't take so long to just mention this one last little thing. I couldn't help but think of all the devastation going on in Texas with the floods. Mm-hmm. That really bothered me a lot. My heart went out for those people that have lost, especially young kids that were swept away and died through this. The parents, I've been through some stuff, but to lose your kid like that, man, it really bothered me a lot. Mm-hmm. So I hope that, if my book can help you, that'd be great. But just to let you know that I know there's a lot of people out there that they're praying for you folks.
Mm-hmm.
And I want the best thing for you. So God bless you.
Yeah, we need all the help we can get. That tragedy in Texas is horrible. Some of the things we've seen about how, I guess, they were offered federal funds to create a prevention system, an emergency system that the areas surrounding them have. And I think it's just a travesty. I think some people need to be held criminally liable on the city council for not taking those federal funds that were offered to them and protecting those people. It's an example of, it's not a great, it's an example of, it's a tragic example of how, we need to look out for each other more, care about each other more. This whole rugged individualist sort of mentality of some groups, that doesn't work for a lot of people. And a lot of people, in Texas, there are large areas of people that are, they're not rich, they're average people, and when these things happen, they need help. We need to help each other and lift each other, and we need to look out for each other too. And that's really important, because the rising tide lifts all boats, and when you operate of scarcity, somebody's going to fall out of the boat and die. And it's just unfortunate that some of these things happen when they were seriously preventable. Anyway, but thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your message. And give us your .com, Gary, one last time as we go out.
Yes, it's author Gary Elliott.com. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate everything you do.
Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it. And I appreciate people like you who come and, it's not hard. Sometimes it's challenging to share your story. It's, you're opening yourself up, but it's so interesting how much it impacts things. I just recently, people have heard for, probably close to a decade now, some of the stories I've told about my dogs and losing them and the cathartic moments I went through and trying to heal and recover from loss. They were kind of like my kids. And, I think of it as my kids. And so it was kind of like losing a child, and I don't have children. So for me, it's pretty complete in that order of, this is a child for me. And yesterday was the 7th anniversary of the loss of my second dog, Husky, that we helped through cancer for a year and a half. And I had talked about that experience online with people and shared our journey of where we helped her through hospice care. And we spent a year and a half trying to keep her alive and surviving cancer. And sharing that whole experience in those moments helped so many people. And it's been 7 years, yet to this day, I'll still have people that come to me and be like, some of the things you talked about with your dog and the kind of the thought process you went through and the grieving process you went through helped me go through my stuff, made me realize that I didn't have closure with my father's death or someone in the family or a pet or something. And it's interesting how just telling our stories helps so many other people. And sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you're getting a pre-plan. Sometimes you might listen to the Chris Voss show and you hear someone's story and you're like, I don't know, that hasn't happened to me yet, but it's good to know I got a blueprint there for when it does.
Relate with you for the dog. We had a dog, a Dalmatian mix that passed away a while back, and now we've got a chocolate lab, and so
well, they sure crawl into your hearts. It's all that unconditional love they give.
For sure, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Gary, for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thanks to us for tuning in. Go order up Gary's book wherever fine books are sold. You can get through this with God's help. It's out August 28th, 2024. And never be afraid to ask for help, please. Dial 988 if you're in trouble. You feel you need to talk to someone right away. It's free. It's anonymous. You can do that. Or reach out to people. Gary reached out to his pastors. Whatever the case may be, talk to someone. You'd be surprised how many of us have been through that same journey. That's kind of what's interesting is you're like, wow, there's a lot of people went through this. I'm not alone. So thank you very much, folks. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should have us out.